Hello, everybody. Welcome to the IC Topic Chats. Today, we're going to be talking about the IC TIG survey from 2015. And as it turns out, I'm also going to be talking about the 2013 survey that I bet nobody even knows exists. Both of those were surveys done of the IC TIG, the Independent Consulting Topical Interest Group personnel, people who have identified with that group. And the 2013 survey was exclusively open-ended, and it was analyzed as a qualitative survey by M.B.A. And then the 2015 survey was done amongst the leadership with the TIG, and we're just going to look at the qualitative themes. A couple weeks back, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I reviewed the quantitative themes. We looked at fees and finances and things like that, kind of revenue people generate, broke it down by some different classifications and some different criteria. I just returned from the AEA, American Evaluation Association Summer Evaluation Institute. Raise your hand if you were there. I can see it. A couple people. Sam was there, Nadine was there, Tasha was there, Ann was there. Great stuff. I can speak from my own personal experience. I get a chance to talk about this independent consulting stuff a lot, but it's really weird when you walk away from your computer and you're going to talk to people and you're like, what's on the screen? What's coming? What's the next slide? You can't see it. You know, you get so really spoiled by sitting at your computer. It is nice, though, to spend time directly with people. So let's jump into it. Both of these setups are set up where we have other people's slides that I've pulled in, and I've tried to give as much attribution to them because this was their work. I'm close with them, and I know that they would want me to continue to share this information, so I don't have any worries about sharing something that's private or something like that. These were of our TIG members, and I think that you're going to find that this information was very relevant to that day and not so different from what we're thinking about today as well. In 2003, I was newly on the IC TIG leadership, and Amy Germuth, it might have actually been 2002, 2003. Amy Germuth conducted a survey, and then, yeah, it was in 2003. That summer, she came and she gave that, she did it over the summer, and then that next October, it was 2004, we were in Washington, D.C., and she gave the presentation on this, and it was really my first taste of a presentation that was just really well done with lots of pictures, very few words on the slides. This was one of her slides where she just kind of talked about the 3 main questions she asked of those folks. And for anybody who's been around and seen the guinea pig with armor on, and we have a guinea pig with armor on it, that's actually straight from her presentation. She finished that presentation saying, if your independent consultants need to be like guinea pigs with armor. And I just remember thinking, that's great. And we took them that next year, we started our first Facebook page. We put that actual picture of the guinea pig with armor on there. It became something that when we developed logos, I was in the process of doing that, and I said to the designer, hey, just for fun, develop a guinea pig with armor. And so if you go out to the Facebook site, and oftentimes within our newsletters and things like that, you see that that's become kind of a running logo. We have the boring logo with like the red and gray box, which I actually have it sitting over here, but I'm not going to break the presentation to go get it. But anyhow, that guinea pig with armor came straight from Amy Germuth's presentation. The things that I want to talk about from her 2003 survey are what are the top 3 challenges that she faced as a consultant. And this morning, I took about 45 minutes and I reviewed those comments. And she said in her presentation that, let's see, I'm trying to look at the notes side of this all. She said there was a total of 124 people who responded. 84% of those people identified as solo practitioners or consultants within small firms where they have very, very few people. Usually we call those onesie twosies. They have 1 or 2 people in the firm. Let's see the next slide. So some of those future trends, she said that, we've got continuing to need to look to manage our work and manage our time. And so again, all of these slides, as cute as they are not mine. These are all Amy's originally. And of course she put while your dog sleeps, but we're looking for time balance, right? And looking for managing our time and how to coordinate our projects. One of the things I saw in some of the comments was that several of our colleagues are concerned with how much time do I spend on billable time? How much do I spend time on administration? And what percentage of time should I be spending on just that invoicing and maybe even chasing down new work kind of thing that's unbillable time? What is that good balance? Is it 50-50? Is it 70-30? I mean, we want to have as much billable time as possible, clearly, but what's that number? And I think that's something a lot of people are struggling with. The next thing that she shared was that we need to continue to keep up with technology. And here's a picture of some old technology. Some of us might actually remember working on things like this once upon a time. I think that's still the case. From my perspective anyway, the technology is less about the PC or the hardware, it's the software or the applications. What software should we be subscribing to? Should it be in vivo, or I forget what the other one is that we subscribe to for qualitative software? And really, for me, if I had to comment on this, what subscription should I have? Because it seems like every time I turn around, I need to have another subscription to this. I need to have something for my software for my survey, for Google, for Microsoft, for Tableau. It just the list. I need to have a Spotify account so that we can listen to music while we're focusing on our work. It's just, and everything is another $11 per month per person. Toggle for time tracking, and where does that end? But I think that's what people were saying back then, and I think we're still saying that today. The thing that Amy shared back in 2004. In 2014 was helping clients understand evaluations, values, and limitations, really just helping our clients to understand the value of evaluation. In those comments I saw people saying things like, my clients are using my evaluation because they have to. That's the only way I have a contract. And I'd like to see them want my evaluation. Oh, we had that slide already. Somehow that got in there twice. Now I want to transition over to Norma's presentation from 2016. This is based upon the 2015 survey. I tried pulling in her slides into here, and it just looked ugly. So I'm gonna stop this presentation and go directly into hers. And again, I want to attribute all of this back to Norma. So this was her presentation from 2016. First of all, she wanted to thank everybody. And you'll see that in her presentation, she gave a little bit of background on who completed the survey and a little bit about the survey. You should know that we had 386 responses to that survey, a really pretty good sample, considering that's about a third of our number, although a lot of our participants, people who identify with the ICJ, are not necessarily true independent consultants. They identify as aspirational independent consultants. So 386 is probably a pretty good number. It's probably not that we really have any good math on this, but it's about probably half, I'd say. And of that group, 82% are owners or partners in an evaluation business. It's kind of the broad spectrum of where people are 86% with the United States and 9% Canada, which is the overwhelming number. 53% in Europe. When we ask what attracted you to independent consulting, we saw there's a lot of different situations that people fell into it. I think that's probably a pretty interesting perspective that a lot of us do it. I don't think we call them accidental evaluators. I'm certainly in one of them. I think that there was a lot of reflection on people who were starting to go into evaluation programs and competition with those folks. There's actually a lot of focus on people who are worried about competition from the big firms, and I remember hearing that a lot. I'm not hearing that independently through my own experiences as much as I once did, because I don't think that ever really occurred. There's a lot of folks who are worried about independent consulting and their ability to maintain their businesses, because they thought it was all going to be stolen away from them because of the big firms, and perhaps the research centers who have pretty good capacity to take that away. From my personal experience, and what I think is that a lot of folks are able to maintain their relationships with their clients, and the projects are of a small enough scope that it's really not, worth their while. There's not enough juice and squeeze for some of the bigger practices, and I think that continues to be a competitive advantage for the small firms, the one-person, two-person operations. If you have such a low overhead, you can do projects for a lot less. So why do people get into independent consulting? They said they love the autonomy. If you've ever been to any of my presentations, or if we've talked about this you're going to hear this exact same thing that I say over and over again, just from a different series of slides. They like that flexibility and diversity of projects. They like the way that the evaluation is a good use of their talent. There's an ever-changing nature of the programs. And they like perhaps being able to be the solitude or the ability to do this work by themselves. And I think that kind of goes back to the independence of it. Here's one quote for you. So that speaks to a couple of the things we just saw on the past slide. This was an important thing that we asked about 8 years ago. How can the TIG itself provide some more assistance to you? And I'm not sure why these slides are out of order. This is actually more of a sense for how they work. But what they did say in the response to the TIG was they could use more with, you can see this, networking, marketing, business development. People had business interests. They'd like to see that there's more sessions around contracting and RFP, how to do business structure, billing methods and accounting. There's some management tools. There's some ways to think about your taxes and succession planning. And maybe, to be honest, I don't know that I spent any time reviewing these slides before we started doing these topic chats, but in many ways, I feel like those are the topics that we cover on a pretty regular basis with these topic chats. Oh, sorry. A lot of people were interested in some more guidance on their fees. You see some of the different quotes here about how to go about identifying what I should be charging and how I should market myself. These are quotes straight from the survey. There's a lot of interest in more networking and connecting around networking. So people said they'd like to see collegiality. They'd like to see some mentoring. New project opportunities. How do they connect around new project opportunities? Partnerships. subcontracting, and just news. You know, I don't think any of this would have happened if it wasn't for the pandemic, but I think a lot of this has happened. I can claim some credit with the group of folks that we've put together the IC topic chats, but you know, Anne's office hours and like Gumani's sessions that she does, a couple of the other sessions that are out there, there's been a lot more just because we've found ways to connect, or we felt like we wanted to connect with one another when we were not connecting with people during the pandemic, and those things have continued on. The mentoring in particular, I've seen that particularly through, this again predated the masterminds, but we see masterminds doing mentoring, not as much mentor mentee, but I'd say it's peer mentoring. There's definitely mentoring going on with Anne's office hours. And we did do a subcontracting workshop. Was it January or February? Early February it was. Then we asked the question, what do you struggle with? So some of those things we saw were these quotes here. Probably no surprises here. Balancing my time on projects. Same kind of things we saw from Amy's session. Here's a quote. Now, if anybody attended my session yesterday or on Monday, this is not the same quote, but it's almost word for word, very, very similar to another quote that I include in my slides. So it's interesting to read this and see this. So let me ask the question, what do you perceive to be the barriers to starting an independent consulting practice? And what kinds of assistance do you think the TIG could offer? So you see, these are the barriers. It's marketing, management, fees, networking, how to find clients. Things that the ICTIG or perhaps anybody independently would like to do this, because as it turns out, we don't wait for the TIG to get things done, we do it ourselves. Here's some ideas. Directory across the organization, kind of like maybe that would be the sort of thing where you have a expert list, some way to connect for a subcontract with bigger companies. So I think we're doing some of that, not so specifically. Offer a business 101. We're actually doing that through IC topic chats. And as you guys all know, you can go back and watch all the videos for free. Some more ideas. What are some frequently asked questions? Profile events. It was funny. We've done this through a lot of these things happened because of the pandemic. Again, I don't think a lot of these things would have happened if it wasn't for the pandemic. Anyway, so that's the things that Norma put together. Again, I want to make sure you all recognize that was hers. Here's some pictures of the people who were involved. We also had Nikki Bowman, Nicole Clark, Eric Craig, and Tanya Jarosevich. Tanya, by the way, also did the 2005, or was it 2004 survey. So she was involved with both of the surveys. Kind of nice to see some continuity there. And Norma would like to say thank you to everybody. And with that, I have 5.5 reflections on these surveys. Let's set that down. And let's go back into my slide. Except for still sharing. There's universal themes over time. Those things are costs. People are worried about costs of projects, software, staff, etc. Worried about competition, how to market themselves, how to find help and connect with other people, or provide their help. They were worried about then, and I think this is still the case, balance of work and life, but also billable and non-billable time, and kind of my half, and an uneven workflow, meaning like there's times when you're just got too much work and you can't keep up, or too much billable time, or too much of one or the other. I want to point out that these are our other upcoming sessions. We've got book review by Juliana Rosa next week. I haven't gotten a confirmation on what that book is actually titled. Making the New Normal Work for You. It is not exactly the title, so I don't know what that. Chelsea Horvath is going to talk about selecting a lawyer. I'll be talking about MOUs on June 30th. And then we'll have our 100th one IC topic chat on resilience. So if you have presented, be aware that I'll be sending an email out to you asking for some, like a quote or a thought about resilience. And so we'll put that together in a qualitative fashion. And Susan, Ann, Kurt, and I will facilitate a conversation around resilience. Because after all, we've been around for 100 times now. It's been a bit of a resilience project in and of itself. After that, we'll jump right back in. We'll talk about, oh, it looks like our dates are all off. I was wondering about moving the core topic of insurance up. So I might move that up to the 14th. I might keep it on the 28th. That's after the 100th. We'll figure out what we're doing. But we will talk about the side hustle for sure on the 21st. That was something I want to do. All right. I'm going to stop the recording now, and let's jump back into a conversation.